place on Earth has better weather?
Well, after an extremely quiet time right during the heart of the hurricane season, once we get into October here, we're seeing a little more activity out in the Atlantic. Nothing threatening yet. Notice, though, as we have these dots here that represent the origins of all the storms that have developed the first 10 days now in October 1st to 10, that we have this concentration right here in the southwest Caribbean, in the western part of the Caribbean Sea. That is the prime area for development in October, although there are quite a number have been scattered out here just east of the islands, not very many over, though, close to the African coast. Well, as I mentioned at the outset, it's becoming a little more interesting, and we'll detail several areas for you as we look at the upper winds here. First of all, we still have a trough of low pressure down the east coast, and the trough down the Caribbean is beginning to move out of there a little bit, and the pressures are starting to rise at upper levels, and we do expect to see a ridge develop there. And in response to that, we are going to have to watch this area a little bit more carefully because, as we indicated at the beginning, that is the prime area. Right now we see some increase in showers down there, but nothing to be alarmed about yet. We have an area here north of Puerto Rico that we're quite interested in. Now that's moving away from Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And originally that was a low in the mid and upper layers of the atmosphere, but now it shows some indications of forming a surface low there. And also the same sort of thing, except even more so, is happening out here. This is about 1,500 miles or so to the east of Bermuda, halfway between the Bermuda and the Azores. And this originally was an upper low, which we've been looking at for several days. But now, every once in a while, one of those will work its way down to the surface, and this one seems to be in the process of doing that. We can tell by the low-level cloud motion. Also, we have some ship reports that suggest that this is becoming a surface low. And finally, out here in the Atlantic, we have this ridge at upper levels, and in response to that, we're seeing quite an increase in the disturbed weather off the African coast, coming over to about 45 degrees or so to the west. Now, looking at these areas one at a time, first of all, in the Gulf, we have nothing to show you there, no concentrations of showers anywhere in the Gulf. Now, down in the Caribbean, we have seen some increase in showers during the day, although most of them haven't been too heavy. But even more intriguing to us, I think, is we're beginning to see some pressure falls there. They've fallen perhaps a couple millibars in the last 24 hours or so. And some of the models that we look at here do suggest that a low might develop here in the next few days in the Caribbean. We'll just have to wait and see whether that comes to pass. Not going to happen right away. Now, here's the area north of Puerto Rico that, again, that originally was a upper low, some indications of a surface low. We expect to see that move toward the north. Don't expect to see it move toward the United States at all. Now, here's the cold low out here between Bermuda and the Azores, and we'll focus in on that for you. And the thing that tells us that this is beginning to develop a surface low, we can see the low cloud bands around the center of circulation, which we weren't able to see yesterday. And sometimes such a system as this will make a transition. We particularly see that this time of year and in this part of the Atlantic Ocean where that might happen. So we'll be watching that, and the National Hurricane Center will as well as time goes by. Looking at the situation off the coast of Africa right there is pretty disturbed weather, and we can look at that from another vantage point. But what we're not seeing up to this point anyway is much of any concentration there. But a ridge of high pressure has developed aloft. We expect that to extend westward just a bit. So there's a little better chance of something developing there than we normally expect to see that far east this late in the hurricane season. Off the coast of Mexico, the disturbed weather that we have tracked for the last few days since we got rid of Olaf has diminished quite a bit. We don't see anything there now that seems to have any sign of getting organized, whatever. The same is true down here southeast of Hawaii. We had a couple of disturbances there that we followed the last couple of days. They were way down to the south, about 10 degrees north or so, and today they certainly have, the organization has diminished, so we're not seeing anything there either that's likely to develop. For a while we didn't have any tropical cyclone anywhere in the world, but we finally got one out here by Vietnam. That's Hank, but it's already been downgraded just before it makes landfall in Vietnam. It's no longer a tropical storm, but only a depression, and the only thing it's about to do is to bring lots of rain into Vietnam. That's the tropics for this time. Now back to Lisa.
Thanks, John.